Hey guys, welcome back to Mondays at the Museum. I'm Carrie and I'm here at the Anna Bemis Palmer Museum in York, Nebraska. So for today's episode, I'm going to be giving you a quick history of Waco, Nebraska, and then I'm going to take you for a tour of the Waco section of our History of York County display. The exhibit runs until February 28th, so if you haven't yet come to take the tour, make sure to do so before then. So Waco, Nebraska is 7 miles to the east of York, and its location is yet again tied to the railroad tracks in York County, as you hear in so many of these videos. So it all started in 1877. A lady named Sarah Chapin, who was the niece of the president of the railroad at the time, she offered up 10 acres of her land to be the host site for this new town. However, she had a demand, and that was that she wanted the town to be called Waco. She had apparently gone to school in Waco, Texas, and she wanted to honor that. The town founders agreed, and the rest is history. So this was 1877. By 1879, the population grew to 150, and by 1891, it was all the way up to 400. However, once the Depression hit, things took a turn, and things haven't been the same since. Current population is 304. So, some fun facts about Waco, Nebraska. The first depot was actually a boxcar, and the station agent was a guy named Joe Strickler. There is a Strickler Street in Waco. I assume it's named in his honor. The first store also started out as a boxcar, but eventually was a framed building as soon as that was available. For those of you familiar with Waco now, I know this is going to be hard to believe, but at one point, Waco had a movie theater, a bowling alley, a horse race track. There was daily bus service. There was trains. It was a hip and happening place. The first church in town was a Methodist one. The congregation started in 1880, but it got a building in 1884. Now there are Bethel Lutheran, United Methodist, and Peace Lutheran. If you're into politics, William Jennings Bryan stopped by when he was running for president. For those of you that don't know, he was a Democrat. He tried to run for president in 1896, 1900, and 1908, but he lost all three elections. There were several festivals over the years that Waco hosted, one of which was heavily documented. September 9th, 1920. I have a list of like all these activities that took place there. So some of my favorites are, there was a baseball game in which the singles defeated the married. There was a tug of war, which the town defeated the country. O.E. Miller won the fat man race. Theo Carroll won the old man race. There's more, but those are my favorites. In the 1930s, a gang robbed the bank. Somehow in the middle of this, I guess there was a hamburger store somewhere in town, and the hamburger store manager got held hostage, and then eventually he was dumped outside of town, but like left all tied up. And they said the next day the hardware store had completely sold out of locks, which is entertaining. The last Civil War veteran in all of York County lives in Waco, and he passed away in 1944. Even Temp was a multi-million-dollar business that lasted there for several years. I believe it started in the 70s. It's closed now. But it was really huge and one of the largest employees in York County at the time. There aren't a ton of businesses that are left in Waco at this time. I'm thinking along Main Street, there's like a post office, a bank, a couple of salons. There's Hunter's Lounge. There's a couple of parks. There's a big campground outside of town. And of course, Nebraska Lutheran, which is Nebraska Lutheran High School, aka Nels. They had a rather large renovation in 2002, and it's been a staple in the town ever since. It also has a feeder school, Trinity Lutheran School, there in town, which is a pretty large school as well for Waco. And lastly, as the sign tells you, as you enter into town, Doyle Trout. He was a 4-time state wrestling champion, so he's from Waco. Unfortunately, Doyle got into a major car accident and actually lost one of his legs, which is a super sad story, but he was able to be rescued by firefighters. So now I'm going to take you for a tour of the Waco section. All right, so here's the Waco section as a whole. We're just going to go left to right. So you're going to hear this name a lot, Beckard. But the wedding dress on the left, yes, it is maroon, belonged to Adolphine Ziegenhagen, and the suit belonged to Robert Beckard. They got married on November 13th, 1887 at St. John's Lutheran Church there in Waco. And yes, not all wedding dresses were white at the time. Another Beckard item, you got these guys out for a drive photo there, horse and carriage. That is the Beckard family. We also have a Beckard family photo from about 1917 there. Here is a State Board of Pharmacy certification there for a registered pharmacist. It says 1911. That is for H.G. Beckard. Here's an aerial shot of St. John's Church. It says this is circa 1961. You can see the cemetery there on the right side. Here is a photo of Esther Beckard. She's a Waco native. She attended the University of Nebraska in the 1920s. Oh, this is really cool. The primary school photo. So this was taken November 9th, 1907. And you can see all the kids there. And you can see the numbers next to them. What's really neat is we have the names of most of them. So you can see there's a Scadden in there. There's a Beckard in there. There's a Miltner in there. A lot of really big Waco names. We also have this participation ribbon from the 1977 Nebraska, the Waco Centennial. This is a picture of the Reverend. His full name is Albert Washington Aarons. So he was a Methodist pastor. He served for 53 years, and 13 years of those he served at the Ebenezer Church in Waco. We also have the charter for the Grand Army of the Republic Waco branch, which is really cool. So it is the Dick Yates Post, number 41. And you can see this is dated there, 1892. So for those of you that don't know, the Grand Army of the Republic is the veterans organization for Civil War soldiers, specifically Union soldiers. And they did a lot of really great charity work and things like that. So it's really neat to have that. Also on the table, we've got the senior play cast. This is from April of 1920, and we also have names for a lot of these ones. Look, another Beckard. Here is a map of the Waco precinct. This is from 1911. And we also have this really cool framed picture here. So this is a wedding portrait of Edward Bloom and Anna Zweig. They were married at St. John's Lutheran Church, and they are both buried in the Waco Cemetery. Also over here, another Beckard item. Here is a churner. So it's a 4-gallon stone churn from the 1870s, and it even comes with your extra masher there. Next, we have this issue of the Waconian. So it is from May 22nd, 1919, and it's just like their little newspaper at the time. It's got really great ads, though. So there's one for the bank. Let's see what else we can find here. Hannah says, wear a wristwatch. A good watch saves your time, from the Hannah's gift shop, stuff like that. Inside the case, we have a whole collection of items related to F.A. Ellison. So there's this Ellison Park in Waco, the F.A. Ellison Park. It was dedicated there in 1985. So Ellison is actually the whole reason that we have Little League Baseball in York County. He was a mail carrier, and what he did was he would go around either during his route or after his time, and he would talk to people and try to recruit not only players but coaches and sponsors. He kept a book, he did stats, he recruited, and his family even hand stenciled uniforms, which you can see here, this Waco one. After he passed away, they held a William Ellison Memorial, and there was a trophy that was given out every year. And yeah, he was literally the reason that we have Little League Baseball here in the area, because he would host 170 to 175 boys each year to play in that league. We do have a couple of wartime items in the back. There are World War II medals there that were earned by Edward Stevens. He's buried in the Waco Cemetery. And then this gas mask was worn in France in 1918, and it's got the whole kit with it, which is really cool. That's from World War I. Next to that, so there was a Ruse grocery at one point in Waco, and we have this nice yardstick there. It is metal. Next to that, we've got the pitcher and wash bowl, another Beckard item. And next to that is the graphophone. So these cylinders here went on that tube back there, and the sound came out here. So that is a graphophone, again donated by the Beckard family. So that is the Waco section of our History of York County display. If you want to come see it in person, make sure to do so before February 28th. We'll see you next week.